The engine coughed once, twice, then died completely. Rachel Hayes gripped the steering wheel as her Honda coasted to a stop on the shoulder of Highway 29, 3 miles from anything resembling civilization. No streetlights, no houses, just darkness and the sound of her own panicked breathing. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and her phone showed 1 bar of signal and 3% battery. She'd been driving home from her nursing shift at the hospital, exhausted from 12 hours on her feet, when the check engine light that had been glowing for 2 weeks finally made good on its threat. Now she sat in complete darkness on a rural highway, alone, scared, and tried to decide if she should call for help while she still had battery or save it for a real emergency. Then she saw headlights in her rearview mirror. A single headlight, actually a motorcycle. It slowed as it approached her car, then pulled onto the shoulder behind her. Rachel's heart started pounding for a different reason now. She'd seen enough horror movies, heard enough true crime podcasts. Woman alone, broken down, middle of nowhere, strange man pulling up behind her. Every instinct screamed danger. The biker cut his engine and climbed off. He was big, easily 6'2", broad shoulders, leather vest, full beard. He walked toward her car, his boots crunching on gravel. Rachel locked her doors, her hand hovering over her phone. Then he stopped about 10 feet back and called out, loud enough for her to hear through the glass. "Ma'am, you having car trouble?" His voice wasn't threatening. It was calm, respectful. But Rachel had learned that danger didn't always announce itself with aggression. "I'm fine," she called back, her voice shaky. "My husband's on his way." A lie, but hopefully a deterrent. The biker nodded slowly, like he understood the lie and why she was telling it. "Okay, that's good. But ma'am, I need you to know something. There's been a guy following you for the last 15 miles. White pickup truck. He's parked about a quarter mile back right now, lights off, waiting. I don't think your husband's going to get here before that truck does. So I'm going to stay right here until you're safe, whether you want me to or not." Rachel Hayes was 31 years old, a registered nurse at County General Hospital, and a single mother to a 7-year-old daughter named Mia. She was not married. There was no husband on the way. She lived alone with her daughter in a small apartment 40 minutes from the hospital, where she worked night shifts to earn the differential pay that kept them afloat. Tonight had been brutal. 3 codes, 2 violent patients, and a staffing shortage that meant she covered twice her normal patient load. She left the hospital at 11:30 p.m., bone-tired, looking forward to the 40-minute drive home where she could collapse into bed for 5 hours before Mia woke up for school. She noticed a white pickup truck about 10 miles back. It had pulled onto the highway behind her at the same exit she'd taken, and it had maintained the same distance behind her since then. Not tailgating, but not falling back either. Just following. Rachel had tried to tell herself she was being paranoid. Lots of people took this highway. It was the main route between the hospital and several small towns. The fact that someone was behind her didn't mean they were following her. But when she'd slowed down, the truck slowed down. When she'd sped up, so did the truck. And when her engine had started making that terrible grinding noise right before it died, she'd seen the truck in her rear view mirror slow down, as if waiting to see what would happen. Now her car was dead on the shoulder, and that truck was somewhere behind her in the darkness, and a biker, a stranger who could be just as dangerous, was telling her he'd been watching the whole thing. Rachel's nursing training kicked in. Assess the situation. Identify the immediate threat. Make a decision based on available information. The biker hadn't approached her car aggressively. He'd stopped at a respectful distance. He'd acknowledged her fear, understood why she'd lie about a husband, and he'd given her information she needed. Someone was following her. "How do I know you're not with him?" Rachel called out, still not unlocking her doors. "You don't," the biker said honestly. "But if I was with him, I'd already be at your window. I'm staying back here so you can see me, so you're not more scared than you already are." He pulled out his phone, the screen lighting up his face in the darkness. "I'm calling the police right now. Highway 29, mile marker 47. Disabled vehicle. Possible stalker situation. You wanted to tell them your name?" Rachel hesitated, then nodded. "Rachel Hayes." The biker spoke into his phone. "Yeah, hi. I'm reporting a situation on Highway 29, around mile marker 47. Woman named Rachel Hayes. Her car broke down. There's a white pickup truck that's been following her, now parked about a quarter mile back with lights off. Looks suspicious. Yes, I'll stay until officers arrive. My name is Marcus Chun. I'm with the Iron Guardians, MC. Yes, I'll stay on the line. He looked back at Rachel. Police are on their way. ETA is about 12 minutes. I'm going to stand right here where you can see me. Okay? I'm not going to come closer unless that truck moves. What if he has a gun? Rachel's voice cracked. Then I'm between you and him, and I've got better odds than you do. Marcus said it matter-of-factly, like placing himself in danger for a stranger was just something people did. Rachel sat in her car, doors locked, watching Marcus in her rear-view mirror. He stood beside his motorcycle, phone to his ear, positioned so he could see both her car and the road behind him. Every few seconds, he glanced back into the darkness where the truck was supposedly waiting. 3 minutes passed. 4. The highway was deserted. No traffic in either direction. Just Rachel, Marcus, and somewhere in the darkness behind them, a white pickup truck with its lights off. Then Marcus's posture changed. He went from relaxed to alert in an instant. He's moving. Marcus said loud enough for Rachel to hear. Stay in your car. Keep your doors locked. Rachel saw the headlights first. The white pickup was rolling forward slowly, no longer trying to hide. It pulled onto the shoulder about 50 yards back, stopped, then started moving forward again. Marcus stepped into the middle of the road, planting himself between Rachel's car and the approaching truck. He was a big man, but standing alone on a dark highway facing down a 2-ton vehicle, he suddenly looked small and vulnerable. The truck stopped about 30 feet away. The high beams flicked on, flooding Marcus in harsh white light. Rachel could see him clearly now. Leather vest with patches, jeans, boots, his hand raised to shield his eyes from the glare. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the truck's driver's side door opened. A man got out, average height, maybe 40, wearing a hoodie. Rachel couldn't see his face clearly, but something about the way he moved, slow, deliberate, confident, made her blood run cold. You need to move, the man called out to Marcus. That's my girlfriend. We had a fight. I'm here to help her. She's not your girlfriend, Marcus said calmly. And you're not helping anybody. You don't know that. She's upset. She's not thinking clearly. Then why were you following her with your lights off? The man didn't answer that. Instead, he started walking forward. Marcus didn't move. Sir, I need you to get back in your truck. Police are on their way. I don't need police. I need to talk to my girlfriend. She's not your girlfriend. And if you take another step, we're going to have a problem. The man laughed. You going to stop me? One biker against. He didn't finish the sentence because that's when the rumble started. More headlights appeared in the distance. Not car headlights. Motorcycle headlights. Multiple motorcycles. Coming fast from the direction Rachel had been traveling. Marcus pulled out his phone. His other phone, Rachel realized. He'd been making more than one call. Yeah, they're here, he said into it. Thanks, brothers. 6 motorcycles roared onto the shoulder, surrounding Rachel's car in a protective formation. 6 more bikers, all wearing the same Iron Guardians patches as Marcus, all climbing off their bikes and walking forward to stand beside him. The man in the hoodie stopped advancing. He looked at the wall of bikers now blocking his path to Rachel's car, and whatever confidence he'd had evaporated. Still want to have that conversation? Marcus asked, his voice hard now, because it's going to be with all of us. The man stood frozen, clearly recalculating his options. One of the other bikers, a woman with silver hair and a leather vest that read VP, walked past Marcus toward Rachel's car. She knocked gently on the window. Honey, I'm Sergeant Kara Mitchell, off duty. I'm with the county sheriff's office. She held up her badge. You can open your window. You're safe now. Rachel cracked her window an inch. Has that man ever approached you before? Karen asked. I don't know him. I noticed his truck following me about 15 miles back. Did he try to force you off the road? Flash his lights? Do anything else? No, he just followed. kept the same distance. When my car died, he turned his lights off and waited. Karen nodded, her expression grim. That's predatory behavior. He was waiting for you to be completely vulnerable before he approached. She glanced back at the man, who was now backing slowly toward his truck under the watchful eyes of 6 bikers. "Don't move," Karen called out, her voice suddenly commanding. "You're being detained for questioning." "I didn't do anything. I was just driving." "Then you'll explain that to the officers when they arrive. Until then, you stay exactly where you are." Red and blue lights appeared in the distance. 2 patrol cars, coming fast. When they arrived, 4 officers got out, and Karen immediately walked over to brief them, showing her badge, explaining the situation. Marcus came over to Rachel's window. "You okay?" Rachel nodded, though she was shaking. "What would have happened if you hadn't stopped?" Marcus glanced back at the man being questioned by police. "Nothing good. Guys like that, they look for vulnerable women. Broken down cars, flat tires, empty parking lots. They pretend to help gain your trust, then..." He didn't finish. "How did you know he was following me?" "I was behind both of you for about 15 miles. I noticed his pattern. The way he adjusted his speed to match yours. How he stayed far enough back that you might not notice, but close enough that he'd know where you turned. When your car started having trouble, he slowed down like he was waiting for something. That's when I knew. You called the other bikers? We've got a network. When someone's in trouble, especially women alone at night, we respond. 7 of us were within 10 minutes. They all dropped what they were doing and came." One of the officers approached Rachel's car. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Davidson. Can you step out and give us a statement?" Rachel got out on shaky legs. She told them everything, noticing the truck, the way it followed her, how it had turned off its lights after her car died. She told them about Marcus stopping, about the man claiming to be her boyfriend, about feeling certain something terrible was about to happen. The officer questioning the man in the hoodie called over his partner. They spoke in low voices. Then one of them returned his patrol car and got on the radio. Officer Davidson came back to Rachel. "Ma'am, we're running his information. He's got 2 prior arrests for stalking and 1 for attempted sexual assault. He's on probation, and following women on highways violates his terms." Rachel's legs nearly gave out. Karen caught her arm, steadying her. "You're okay," Karen said gently. "You're safe. He didn't get to you. Only because Marcus stopped. Only because you were smart enough to lock your doors and wait for help." Karen guided her to sit on the curb. "You did everything right." The man was being handcuffed now, yelling about his rights, about how he hadn't done anything. The officers weren't listening. They loaded him into the back of a patrol car. Officer Davidson approached Rachel again. "Your car's not going anywhere tonight. Do you have someone who can pick you up?" Rachel checked her phone. Dead. "Of course. My daughter's at home with a babysitter. I need to call her, tell her I'll be late." Marcus held out his phone. "Use mine." Rachel called Mrs. Chun, her elderly neighbor who watched Mia when Rachel worked nights. "I'm so sorry. I had car trouble. I'll be home as soon as I can." "Yes, I'm safe. Thank you." She handed the phone back to Marcus. "I need to get home. My daughter's 7. She'll be worried." "Where do you live?" Marcus asked. "Millbrook, about 40 minutes from here." Marcus looked at the other bikers. "Who's got the truck?" A massive biker with a gray beard, his vest red, tiny, raised his hand. "I'll call my brother. Have him bring his tow truck. We'll get her car to Garcia's garage. Miguel will look at it tomorrow." "I can't afford," Rachel started. "Wasn't asking if he could afford it." Tiny said, "We'll figure out the car. Right now, you need to get home to your kid." Marcus looked at Rachel. "I can give you a ride. I know you don't know me, and I know that's asking a lot of trust. Karen can follow us on her bike, if that makes you more comfortable." Rachel looked at this man who'd stood between her and danger, who'd called his friends to help a stranger, who was now offering to drive her home 40 minutes out of his way. "Okay," she said. "Thank you." Marcus grabbed a spare helmet from his bike. "Ever ridden before?" "Once, when I was 16. It's like that. but you're older and smarter now. You'll be fine. Karen walked over. I'll follow you. My shift starts in an hour anyway. I'm headed that direction. 20 minutes later, Rachel was on the back of Marcus's Harley, her arms wrapped around the waist of a man she'd been terrified an hour ago, riding through the night toward home. Karen's headlights stayed steady behind them, a guardian angel on two wheels. The ride gave Rachel time to process what had happened, how close she'd come to being a statistic, another woman who disappeared from a dark highway, how a stranger on a motorcycle had seen danger she hadn't fully recognized and had put himself at risk to protect her. When they pulled up to Rachel's apartment building at 1:15 a.m., Mrs. Chun was waiting on the porch, visibly relieved. Mia was asleep inside. I'm so sorry, Rachel said as she climbed off the bike. Thank you for staying. Don't you apologize. I'm just glad you're safe. Mrs. Chun looked at Marcus and Karen with undisguised suspicion. These people helped you? They saved me, Rachel said quietly. I'll explain tomorrow. After Mrs. Chun left, Rachel turned to Marcus and Karen. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to, Marcus said. Just get inside, lock your doors, and hug your daughter. What about my car? Tiny will text you the garage address. They'll give you an honest assessment. Won't rip you off. Tell them Marcus sent you. Karen handed Rachel a card. This has my number and the non-emergency police line. The guy they arrested tonight is going back to prison for violating probation. But if you ever feel unsafe, if you notice anyone following you, anything suspicious, you call immediately. She paused. And this is Marcus's card. Iron Guardians, MC. We do highway watches, volunteer patrols looking out for stranded motorists, especially women alone at night. You need help? You call. We're usually closer than police. Rachel took both cards with shaking hands. Why do you do this? Karen's expression darkened. Because 12 years ago, my sister's car broke down on I-85 at night. A man stopped to help her. She was missing for 3 days before they found her body. Her voice was steady but hard. So now we make sure that doesn't happen to anyone else. We watch. We respond. We protect. Marcus added quietly. Every woman who gets home safe is someone's daughter, someone's mother, someone's sister. Tonight, you're that woman. Tomorrow, it might be someone else. We just make sure everyone gets home. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I have a daughter. She's 7. If something had happened to me tonight, but it didn't, Karen said firmly. You're here. You're safe. And tomorrow you're going to hug your daughter and tell you love her, and that's what matters. After they left, Rachel stood on her porch for a long moment, watching their taillights disappear into the night. Then she went inside, locked the door, and went to Mia's room. Her daughter was asleep, peaceful, oblivious to how close she'd come to waking up without a mother. Rachel sat on the edge of the bed and just watched her breathe, overwhelmed with gratitude and residual fear. The next morning, Rachel explained to Mia that her car had broken down and some kind people had helped her get home. She didn't mention the man following her, the danger she'd been in. Mia was 7. She didn't need that fear yet. Tiny texted the address of Garcia's garage. Rachel called during her lunch break. Yeah, we got your Honda, a man with a thick accent said. Marcus called. Said to take care of you. We're looking at it now. How bad is it? Timing belt snapped. Could have been worse. You got lucky, engine didn't seize. We can fix it, but it's going to be about $800 in parts and labor. Rachel's heart sank. She had maybe $300 in her checking account. I'll need to figure out payment. Can I call you back? Marcus already paid. What? He paid this morning. Said to fix it right. Don't cut corners. Car will be ready tomorrow. He can't. I can't accept that. I don't even know him. Then you get to know him when you pick up your car and tell him thank you. We open at 8. The next evening, Rachel arrived at Garcia's garage with Mia. Her Honda was parked out front, looking better than it had in months. Someone had washed it. Marcus was inside, talking with a mechanic. He looked up when Rachel walked in. You paid for my car, Rachel said without preamble. The club has a fund for this kind of thing. Highway assistance for people who need it. That's not a real thing. Marcus smiled slightly. It is now. Rachel felt tears threatening again. I can't pay you back. Not all at once. But I can do payments. Rachel. He said her name gently, making her stop. You don't owe us money. You don't owe us anything. But $800 is what it costs to make sure you and your daughter have safe transportation. That's worth it to us. Mia, who'd been quiet until now, tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, why is the motorcycle man being so nice? Marcus knelt down to Mia's level. Because your mom helps people for her job, right? She's a nurse. Mia nodded. Well, I help people too, just in a different way. Your mom was having a bad night, and I was in the right place to help. That's all. Are you a superhero? Mia asked seriously. No, sweetheart. I'm just a guy who rides a motorcycle and tries to do the right thing. Mia thought about this. That sounds like a superhero to me. Marcus laughed. Your daughter's got good instincts. Miguel, the garage owner, brought over Rachel's keys. You're all set. We topped off your fluids. Checked your brakes. They're fine for now, but you'll need new pads in about 6 months. Oil change is good for another 3,000 miles. Thank you, Rachel said, for everything. Outside, as Rachel was buckling Mia into her car seat, she noticed Marcus preparing to leave on his bike. Marcus, she called out. He turned. Why were you on that highway Tuesday night? Were you working? Just riding home from a friend's place. Wrong place, wrong time. Or right place, right time, depending on how you look at it. Do you believe in fate? Marcus considered the question. I believe that sometimes we end up exactly where we're supposed to be. Whether that's fate or coincidence or just dumb luck, I don't know. But I'm glad I was behind you that night. Me too. Rachel paused. The card Karen gave me. It said the Iron Guardians do highway watches. Is that something you do often? Few nights a week. We take shifts, patrol the rural highways where women break down, and there's no self-service, no lights, nothing. We look for people in trouble. That must take a lot of time. It does, but it matters. Rachel pulled out her wallet and found Karen's card, then Marcus's card. Can I ask you something? Anything. If I wanted to help, not riding motorcycles, I don't have a bike, but supporting what you do somehow, is that possible? Marcus looked surprised. You want to help us? You saved my life. That man they arrested, he had priors. If you hadn't been there... She glanced at Mia in the car, then back at Marcus. I want to do something. I'm a nurse. I could teach first aid, help with medical stuff if someone gets hurt on the highway. I don't know. Something. Marcus smiled. The clubhouse is always looking for medical volunteers. We do first aid training for members, and sometimes people we help on the highway need medical attention before ambulances arrive. If you're serious, Karen would love to have you. I'm serious. Then I'll have her call you. 6 months later, Rachel was teaching her third first aid course at the Iron Guardians clubhouse. She got to know the members, Marcus, Karen, Tiny, and dozens of others. She learned their stories, their reason for dedicating time to highway watches and community protection. Karen's sister, murdered after a breakdown. Tiny's daughter, assaulted in a parking lot. Marcus's mother, followed home by a stalker who'd watched her for weeks. Every member had a reason, a personal connection to why protecting vulnerable people mattered. Rachel had found her own way to contribute. Beyond teaching medical skills, she'd started a program connecting the club with local hospitals. When stranded motorists needed medical attention but couldn't afford emergency room bills, Rachel helped navigate charity care programs and sliding scale options. She'd also started volunteering on weekend highway watches. Not riding. She still didn't have a motorcycle, but in Tiny's truck, the one equipped with towing equipment and emergency supplies, she'd help with medical assessments, comfort frightened motorists, provide first aid when needed. One Saturday night, they got a call about a woman whose car had broken down on Highway 29 near mile marker 47, almost exactly where Rachel's car had died 6 months earlier. When they arrived, they found a young woman, maybe 23, sitting in her dead car with the doors locked, visibly terrified. A vehicle had been following her, she said. She didn't know if it was still out there. Rachel approached the car, knocked gently on the window. "Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a nurse. We're here to help you." The woman cracked the window an inch, exactly like Rachel had done. "How do I know you're not dangerous?" "You don't," Rachel said honestly. "But 6 months ago, my car died in this exact spot. A man had been following me. These bikers stopped, protected me until police arrived, then made sure I got home safe to my daughter. They saved my life. Now I volunteer with them to do the same for others." She held up Karen's badge. The sergeant was 30 feet back, along with Marcus and Tiny, giving the woman space. That's a real sheriff sergeant. These are real people who do this because they care. And right now, they're standing between you and whatever's out there in the dark. The woman started crying. "I was so scared." "I know. I was too. But you're going to be okay. We're going to stay until the police get here, and then we're going to make sure you get somewhere safe." "Okay." The woman nodded and finally unlocked her door. 2 hours later, the woman's car was towed. The vehicle that had been following her was identified. A drunk driver who'd been weaving, not actively stalking, but frightening nonetheless. And the woman was safely on her way with a relative who'd come to pick her up. As they were packing up, Marcus pulled Rachel aside. "You were good with her. Natural. I remember what it felt like. The fear. Not knowing who to trust. You've come a long way from that night." Rachel looked out at the dark highway, remembering. "You know what's strange? That night was one of the worst of my life. But it also changed my life for the better. I found purpose. I found community. I found out I'm stronger than I thought. You were always strong. You just didn't know it yet." "Maybe." Rachel smiled. "But I wouldn't have figured it out without you stopping that night." 1 year after a car had died on Highway 29, Rachel was invited to speak at a community safety event. She stood at a podium in front of 200 people, town residents, police officers, and several motorcycle clubs who'd all contributed to making the highways safer. "A year ago," Rachel began, "I was a single mother driving home from a night shift at the hospital. My car broke down on a dark highway. A man had been following me for 15 miles. And I was terrified." She paused, looking out at the audience. Then a biker stopped behind me. And every horror movie, every true crime podcast, every warning I'd ever heard about strangers told me to be afraid of him too. But that biker, Marcus Chun, he saved my life. He saw a danger I hadn't fully recognized, and he stood between me and it without hesitation. When 7 more bikers showed up within minutes, I realized something important. These weren't the dangerous people I'd been taught to fear. These were the people who ran toward danger to protect others. These were the guardians nobody talks about, the volunteers who patrol highways, who stop for stranded motorists, who put themselves at risk so the rest of us can get home safely. Rachel's voice grew stronger. In the past year, the Iron Guardians and partnering clubs have assisted over 300 stranded motorists. They prevented at least 12 stalking situations. They provided first aid to accident victims before ambulances arrived. They've changed tires, called tow trucks, shared gas, and offered comfort to people who were scared and alone. And they do it for free, not for recognition, not for reward, because it's the right thing to do. She looked directly at Marcus, standing in the back of the room. So today I want to say thank you to Marcus, to Karen, to Tiny, and every member of every club who's chosen to be a guardian instead of a bystander. You've saved lives. You've restored faith. You've proven that the scariest-looking people can have the biggest hearts. And to anyone listening who's ever felt afraid on a dark highway, who's ever been vulnerable and alone, these people are out there watching. Not everyone who stops is dangerous. Some of them are heroes who just happen to ride motorcycles. The room erupted in applause. Several bikers in the audience stood up, followed by police officers, then the entire crowd. A standing ovation for the people who patrolled highways in the dark, who stopped for strangers, who made helping others their mission. 5 years later, Rachel stood in a community center decorated with balloons and banners. It was a grand opening of Safe Harbor, a drop-in center for people in crisis, funded by donations from motorcycle clubs across 3 states. The center offered resources for domestic violence survivors, stranded travelers needing temporary help, people escaping dangerous situations. It had counselors, legal aid, medical services, and a direct line to highway patrol. It was a physical embodiment of everything the bikers had been doing informally for years, now organized and expanded. Mia, now 12, stood beside her mother, wearing a volunteer badge. She'd grown up around the Iron Guardians, had learned to see past leather and tattoos to the people underneath. She wanted to be a nurse like her mom and volunteer with the Highway Watch when she was older. Marcus, now in his late 40s with more gray in his beard, approached Rachel. "You did this," he said, gesturing at the center. "This was your vision." "It was our vision," Rachel corrected. "I just helped organize it." "You did more than that. You turned one night on a highway into a movement." Karen, now fully retired from the sheriff's office and working at Safe Harbor full-time, joined them. "We've helped 47 people in the first month. 47. And that's just the ones who walked through our doors." Tiny walked over with a young woman Rachel didn't recognize. "Rachel, this is Christina. She was one of the women we helped last year on Highway 29. She wanted to meet you." Christina shook Rachel's hand with tears in her eyes. "You talked to me when my car broke down. You told me about your experience, and it made me feel less alone. I wanted to thank you." "You don't need to thank me." "But I do, because after you helped me that night, I started volunteering too. And last month, I was the one who stopped for a woman whose car had died. I got to be the person who made her feel safe. And that's because you showed me how." Rachel felt a familiar tightness in her throat. This was the ripple effect. One act of kindness spreading outward, touching more lives, creating more guardians. That evening, after the grand opening celebration, Rachel drove home on Highway 29. It was dark, just like that night 5 years ago. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She knew that somewhere out there, bikers were patrolling, watching, ready to help anyone who needed it. Her phone rang. "Marcus, there's a stranded motorist on Route 7, he said. "Young mother with 2 kids. Tiny's already on the way, but we could use your medical expertise. Battery died, and one of the kids has asthma, having trouble breathing." "I'm 15 minutes out," Rachel said, already redirecting her route. "Tell them help is coming." She hung up and pressed the accelerator, rushing toward someone in need, ready to be for them what Marcus had been for her, a guardian in the darkness, proof that help exists, evidence that not all strangers are dangerous. Some of them stop to save your life. Some of them become family. And some of them inspire you to become the guardian you once needed. Rachel had learned that lesson on a dark highway 5 years ago, when her car died and a biker stopped behind her. The moment she'd been most vulnerable had become the moment everything changed, when she discovered that fear and trust could coexist, that danger and safety could look similar until you learn to tell them apart, and that sometimes the person you're most afraid of is actually the one who saves you. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to The Healing Narrative for more true stories about unexpected heroes, about choosing to help instead of looking away, and about how one act of protection can ripple forward for years. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from, and if you've ever been helped by a stranger, or been the stranger who helped. Hit that like button if you believe in highway guardians, in motorcycle clubs that protect instead of threaten, and in the power of standing between danger and innocent people. Share this story with every woman who drives alone at night, with every parent who worries about their kids' safety, with everyone who needs to know that there are still people who watch the dark roads looking for those who need help. Because Rachel's story started with terror and ended with purpose. It started with one biker stopping and grew into a movement that saved hundreds of lives. And it proves that sometimes the rumble of a motorcycle engine in the darkness isn't threat. It's the sound of help arriving.